So today we're talking about Nutrition 101, nutrition basics. Let me turn my phone on silent. You do the same. Okay, so basics. This is the basics. Okay, what do you know about protein, carbs, and fats? Nothing? You just.
Carbs are bad for you.
That's right. People hear that, right? That carbs are bad. Okay. There's what? Yes. Good. What else do you know? You don't say anything. What else do you know about protein, carbs, and fats? Anything? Okay.
Protein after you work out.
All right. So we got protein, carbs, and fats. Those are the main things that we need, right? That's it. Those are called macros, macronutrients. Have you heard that word? Macronutrients. Okay. So macro, you'll hear people say macros. That's what it means, macronutrients. Big, overall encompassing is what they are. Okay. Macronutrients break down into micronutrients, which are like fatty acids, glucose, protein breaks down into amino acids. But within each of these, macronutrients break down into micronutrients, which are just like the vitamins and minerals that are in each one. So for example, protein has certain micronutrients in them, and carbs have certain micronutrients in them. Like some carbs will have different types of glucose or fructose, or they're all glucose, all breaks down into sugar, but they'll have different, it'll break down into a different micronutrient. And I don't know all of them, that's a lot. But they break down into, basically if you just think of vitamins and minerals, these are the big overall encompassing, so like these are the structure that break down into all of the different parts, little particles, okay? So within each of them, they all have micronutrients, a multitude of them. So some of them will have certain vitamins and some of them will not, okay? Now, people hear that carbs are bad, but that's not true. We need carbs. And you just need the right ratio at the right times, okay? And once you know that information and you start eating that way, you will have the best body for the rest of your life because you know. You just weren't ever taught this information. That's it. It's easy when you really wrap your head around it, okay? So you've got macronutrients. Now, Steve, come on up here for me. All right, so Steve has been doing my fitness class. A year ago, he had back surgery. Maybe a little bit a year, and when was your surgery? October? November? So November.
Thanksgiving.
And he was using a walker, you guys, right?
Mm-hmm. I felt like about 80 years old.
He had some degenerative disc problems happening. So basically everything was like degenerating and shrinking in and pinching his spinal nerves. And so that's why he had to use a walker. So he had back surgery, had spacers put in. He started with Figure Fit, the fitness class. He also started with isogenics, the shakes, and just slowly started working once he could in physical therapy and then with me. And then I was helping him like work with the core because this is the most important part to protect that, okay? So Steve, let me get back to the nutrition. I'll try not to get sucked into the exercise part. But Steve and I do the same workouts. How much do you weigh?
About 190.
Okay, 190. Guess how much I weigh? I do not mind telling you this. Guess how much I weigh?
140.
Very good. Yep, I'm 140. So he's 190 pounds, and I'm 140, okay? I'm 140. Based on that, he needs to eat a certain amount of calories for his height and his weight, his age, and his frame, basically. Now, he's got a basal metabolic rate, and that's how many calories he needs to be eating every single day just to stay alive. So if you were like bedridden and couldn't do much, there's a certain amount of calories you have to eat every day just to fuel your brain, your heart, everything, okay? Then there's a total daily energy expenditure. That's once you get up and you start moving, you need to add some extra calories to that because you're actually moving, okay? So you can sit down unless you have anything else you want to say. So he's been doing the workouts. He's been killing it. He's doing awesome. So now based on both of our heights, like his, mine, my age, my frame, like small, medium, large, you have a certain amount of calories that you need to be taking in. Now somebody who's got a sedentary job versus somebody who's like a mailman or fitness instructor, they're gonna need different calories added on to that basal metabolic rate, okay? So that's called your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. And then the other one is your total daily energy expenditure. Okay, so that is just your base, and then this is base plus activity. Basic. Now, since my basic activity includes working out multiple times a week, this can just be base plus activity, but I wouldn't ever say do that because you need to be moving. You need to be working into your weekly calendar movement. You need to be moving, period. Is that not even a negotiable in my world? Like, you need to be doing it. So that for me, that's base plus activity. So that's, I have a pretty active job, right? Now, I'm also gonna add workouts on top of this, okay? I don't even think about it in terms of like my foods on a daily basis. That's just extra. And I call it like icing. So I really just do my macros based on my total daily energy expenditure is my basal metabolic rate plus an active lifestyle. And I really don't concern myself too much with adding calories because I did this specific workout. And I would say I wouldn't do that for you either, because some weeks you're gonna work out more and some weeks you won't. You know, so eat when you're hungry. Have this, do your workouts, and if you're working out more, you're gonna have to add more calories. If you wanna gain muscle, you're gonna have to add more calories. If you're not losing weight, we'll figure out your workouts first before we ever start taking away calories. Does that make sense? You have to have this. You have to have like, you have to have this base plus activity.
I don't even get my base food.
And that's a problem, actually. It is. Because like if you're not eating at your calorie intake, then what happens is your body thinks you're starving, so it starts holding on to excess body weight. And a lot of people I know, they'll like eat one meal a day. And I hate to pick on people, but a lot of men I know do that, and then they end up having this big belly. And it's like, I don't know how that actually happens, but they're putting all of their calories at one place in time. The body can only process so much at a given time, and it has to shuttle it elsewhere. And they're just probably not getting the right amount of nutrients every single day. You know, there's people that I work with that are like, I'm eating more now than I've ever eaten, ever, and I'm losing weight, which is what you want. So let me talk to you really quick about, what is it called? Basically, it's called metabolic damage. So think about like somebody who's dieting, okay? Dieting is one of the things I never want any of you to have to do again, ever, like ever. There's no reason for it. If you're doing the right activities and you're eating when you should, the right things, you don't have to diet. It's just living. You're just fueling your machine, okay? But metabolic damage happens when like there's somebody who's dieting and they're not getting enough calories in. So what happens is your metabolism, your metabolic rate is at a certain point. So for me, my metabolic rate is at a certain point based on my base activity and my activity. And for me, I also have bonus metabolism. I'm gonna call this bonus for having muscle. The more muscle you have, the higher your metabolism is going to be. You'll be able to eat more. You'll be able to store more carbs. That's so good. And then plus figure fit workouts. Those boost your metabolism too because of the way that they are. They high intense interval training. Okay, so these are two extra bonuses for boosting your metabolism. So my I cannot say that today. Basal metabolic rate is high because I muscle and also because I'm training my body's energy systems. Okay? So now, talking about this, when we're looking at like how to eat to fuel your body, what's really important is understanding your macros, understanding your hormones, understanding your cortisol levels, because it all matters. Understanding when your cortisol is highest and your melatonin is released, okay? Like sleep is essential in all of this too. I mean, these are kind of extra peripheral things that do matter, so I'm not going to get into them too much, but I can answer a question if you have them. But understanding that those play a part in this as well. They're important to know. Your sleep, your cortisol, and your melatonin, because those regulate your cortisol levels, okay? And so I'm gonna keep that separate, and I'm gonna talk to you about, I'm gonna go back to the macros, I'm gonna go back to the micronutrients. Now, I'm going to talk briefly, and I'll come back to this. Do not let me forget to come back to this, okay? I'm going to talk briefly about your digestion and your gut health. Because a lot of the times people are having issues, health issues, because they've been feeding themselves processed foods, protein, carbs, and fats, for a long time. The standard American diet, okay? Boxed foods, fast foods, standard American diet. It's really unhealthy. It's loaded with processed foods, genetically modified ingredients. What that is something that your body doesn't know what it is, so your body does not know how to break it down. A genetically modified ingredient is genetically modified in a lab, so your natural system has no idea what to do with it. That causes problems. Okay. Now, in your digestive system, it's considered your small intestines, your large intestines, and your colon. Okay. Your small is first, it goes into your large, and then it goes out through your colon. Your small is where your body takes all of the nutrients from. Okay. So your small intestine, and I talk about this in my book, your small intestine has what's called these villi, little microvilli, like little fingers. And what they're doing is like they're little tight junctures, okay? And what happens is when you eat the food, your food goes into there, and those little tight junctures are basically like little fingers grabbing the nutrients, those micronutrients of the food that you ate. And it's pulling it in to this other side, which is your bloodstream. And then the body takes it and uses it, takes it and puts it where it needs to go. Okay, so all those macronutrients are going into your small intestines. These little villi are eating it. So you eat it here, it goes into here, but your small intestine then eats it and fuels it and sends it into your body where it needs to go. Now, what happens when you've been eating the standard American diet and you've got problems, or you have an autoimmune disorder, you have any sort of problems with your health, you have always leaky gut. If you have any sort of health issue, if you have any autoimmune disorder at all, they go hand in hand. Because if your gut is healthy, the autoimmune disorder is not going to be active. Okay? It may take a little while to kind of fizzle out, but when your gut is healthy, you're healthy. Okay? So when you have leaky gut, what happens is those little microvilli swell. And then there's spaces in between them. So what's the cause of every disease? Well, huh? Nope. Go ahead. Inflammation. That is where every single thing, every problem you will ever have starts from. It's inflammation. And so in your gut, that inflammation is those little microvilli are swelled, they're inflamed. And what happens is when they're inflamed, what's happening here? There's spaces that full particles of food that are not broken down are getting into your bloodstream over here. What happens when those get into your bloodstream is your body creates antibodies which attack it. It's a foreign particle. So your body starts attacking, boom, inflammation, boom, autoimmune response. That's your immune system, right? Autoimmune response. Your body starts attacking itself because it has these foreign invaders, okay? That's where all of your health problems come from. This is why nutrition is number one for everything. It's not just abs are made in the kitchen, it's everything. It's your whole health. This is your gas tank for putting the right fuel in. I had a boyfriend that I dated, and he had this car that he accidentally put diesel in, the wrong fuel. Messed it up, and he had to spend so much money fixing that car. So that's you. You're no different. If you put diesel in your car that needs premium unleaded gasoline, you're gonna screw it up. It's the same thing with you. So if you put in processed foods, and then your body just kind of gets to a point where it's like, I can't take this anymore. You're going to start having problems. For me, I talk about my problems in my book. I had allergies, I had constipation, I had hormone issues, nothing like crazy autoimmune, but any single problem that you have can be traced to your nutrition, any of them. So it's all about that. You guys, gut health is huge. It's this new field that people are heavily researching, the gut microbiome. Heal this, you heal your autoimmune disorders, which they thought was kind of, a chronic genetic disorder, which is, you say that to me, I say, nope, it's not. Because you can change your genes by the foods you eat, the environment you're in, the thoughts you think. That's called quantum physics. You can change it all, down to the cellular level, okay? So it's all up to you based on what you're putting in here, the environment you're in, and the thoughts you're thinking, okay? So I had to get into that real quick, just so you know about the gut health, okay? Now let's go back to, and the micronutrients, let's go back to this, because this is that's getting really deep, and this is supposed to be basic. So now we've got 190 pounds for Steve, or 140 pounds for me. I know my macros. I know how many carbs I should have every day. I know how many proteins I should have every day. And I know how much fat I should have every day. So to me, I break them down into 5, 5, and 4. So I get 5 proteins per day at a certain ratio. I get 5 carbs, and I get 4 fats. So every morning, I have this little calendar. Like today, it's Hay House. Today is money comes in unexpected ways. I'm like, yay, okay, great. So I take yesterday's, I flip it over because I like to keep track, because there's those days when you don't keep track of your foods and you eat whatever, right? And you just lose track of what you're eating. I like to know where I am. And for me, I found that's very, very helpful. So I take my little daily sheet, flip it over, I put down this every day: protein, fat, carbs, and water. Usually every morning I have a 30-gram fat coffee with protein. So boom, boom, boom. And before I have that, I have a whole liter of water. And I fast until about 1 p.m. on this protein and fat. Okay, so I fast until then. So I didn't eat through the night. I have my fatty coffee. Usually I do this every other day. There's no carbs. I'm operating on stored body fat for fuel. So I'm burning stored body fat for fuel. And when I'm ready to eat, I keep it in a window of time. So then I can have all the carbs I want in that window of time. Most of the time I don't, which is great. This is new for me. I used to not do this. I've started doing this after the summer, my tonsillectomy, and I've lost 14 pounds because I fast pretty much every other day. It's called intermittent fasting. Okay, so anyways, back to this. I track them. So for me, on a fasted day, when I'm ready to eat, usually about 1 o'clock I get hungry, And that's also a lot of times when I'll work out, but lately I've only been doing my figure fit workouts. So I usually will just have like a meal with protein, fat, and carbs. Sometimes not fat in that one, but whatever I have, I just track it. I just write it down. Maybe usually my carbs are about 24 grams per. So that's pretty typical. Like one banana is usually 24 grams of carbs. So if I eat a banana, I don't care what I eat. I care when though. I just eat it and I track it. Okay? So if I want to have an orange, I'll have an orange. You got to do your research and learn how many carbs are in what once you know your macros. And then if I have protein, if I have some nuts, boom, those got to figure out how much protein. Sometimes I'll do this, a little half, because your protein is important. You want to make sure you get it in. I'll have a bunch of water. I get 11 of these a day. That doesn't work right, but. So I track my waters. And a lot of times when you think you're hungry, you're thirsty. So go have a huge glass of water and then see where you're at with your foods. So a lot of times I'll eat 2 eggs, full yolks. 3 eggs is actually 1 serving of that and 1 serving of that for me. And at the end of the day, once I get my fat done, I'm done. And if I'm low on protein, then I'm like, okay, I've got carbs left. Yes. So it doesn't matter if you have carbs at nighttime if you're here. A lot of times that's when I eat all my carbs, is at nighttime. It's fine. It doesn't matter. It just matters what you're putting in your body. Okay? So sometimes at night I'm like, I get granola. Now this is not paleo, but I get granola, and I don't have the shakes here, but I take the isoline, it's a meal replacement shake, and I put it on top of my granola. Like I haven't had cereal since I've gone paleo. I've started making my own. So I'll like have a little bit of granola, or I'll take a rice cake, a plain rice cake, and I'll break it up, and I'll put my protein on it, and then I put milk in it, stir it up, and I eat it like it's cereal. So there's crunchiness in there, and it's so good, especially with the vanilla or the strawberry protein. It's just like so good, and I have that at night a lot of the times. And so for this, really, it just matters that you're getting your macros in. Now, there's a lot of days. This past month, I've been sick. I've been fighting this cold that I haven't worked out. And I've been tracking, but I'm low on everything. And I'm okay with that. That's okay. You know, there's going to be days like Thanksgiving where I don't care. I'm just not going to track it. I'm going to be aware of it, knowing what I know of how many points basically, or how many increments of fat I can have, or how many increments of protein I can have. I'm gonna be aware, so I'm not gonna just let caution go to the wind and just eat whatever I want. I'm still gonna know that protein is the most important, and also what you pair together matters. Okay, and so for me, because I care about my metabolism that I have worked very hard for, abs and muscles, you gotta fuel it. That's so key. If you're not getting your protein in, you are shooting yourself in the foot. You are wasting your time working out because you're not building muscle. That is the only thing that builds muscle. These don't at all. Your fats are fatty acids, which actually help to fuel your brain. Those transport nutrients in and out of cells. Your carbs are what make you move. That's the glucose that's stored in your muscle tissue and also in your liver a little bit. More in your muscle tissues than anything. Now, if you, on average, I hate to give this number out because people are like, oh, this means I have this many. I'm just not going to give it out. I'll give it out. Okay, so on average, you get about 400 to 600 grams of glucose in your muscle tissue at any given time. That seems like a lot. It's just not, because every function in your body is using that to process. Okay. Now this is the cool thing. When you start building muscle and you actually get more muscle on your body, you can actually start eating more carbohydrates because you have more places to store it. So your ratio here can go up, which you don't necessarily have to do that, but that's a good thing to know. Like When you have muscle on your body, Steve does not have to worry if he wants a Snicker bar and he goes and eats it. It's not going to sabotage his efforts because he's got more muscle, and that muscle is hungry and it's metabolically active, so it wants all of it. Okay? Now, some key things to know about when to have what. Everybody except Alicia can answer this. Okay, all right. When do you eat carbs?
I make a smoothie in the morning, so.
You what?
So I have a smoothie in the morning, so it's a lot of carbs.
Mm-hmm. Usually, okay, so let's go to this is why carbs get the bad rap. Because your body can physically only handle 1 teaspoon of glucose, which is sugar or carbs or fruit or grains or even, can you turn that music off? Or vegetables at any given time. 1 teaspoon. 1. Any more than that in your bloodstream at any given time, your body it'll start pumping out insulin. It's got to get rid of it out of the bloodstream. So it's going to put it somewhere, right? So your body is always trying to maintain that homeostasis. Okay, so 1 teaspoon is not a lot. So what that means is if you wake up and you have a smoothie, you've got a lot of sugars running through your body. Now, unless you're in a glycogen depleted state where you need it, you have too much. So the best time to have that is after your workout. Because your body right now is perfectly in homeostasis. If you go have carbs, it's going to store that as fat unless you go get rid of it. Okay? So thinking of having the body at like homeostasis and having, for example, Steve, okay? So he's at homeostasis, he's good, his muscle tissue is fed, it's got the glucose that it needs. Now he comes to class tomorrow, let's say it's tomorrow night, and he's just eating regular meals throughout the day. It's fine if you have your protein and your carbs and your fat, but the thing is, you gotta know your ratios and you gotta get rid of it. You gotta get rid of that excess glucose. That's really just the key. You just gotta get rid of it. And you gotta know when to eat at the right times. So now there's nothing wrong with your smoothie as long as you utilize it. The only thing that is wrong with it is how it will make you feel. Stress hormone, and there's good stress and bad stress, but that cortisol is what wakes you up. And melatonin is what's released at night, helps you fall asleep. Okay, so in the morning, when your cortisol levels are higher, you're a little bit more, you're groggy, you're not really awake yet. And if you just have sugars and you just have glucose, what happens is every time you have a carb or a sugar, you spike in insulin. You also spike in energy. But what happens is you do dip from that. If you haven't used it, you're gonna dip. So then you might experience I need a coffee, I need a rock star, I need another coffee. You're just kind of, or what I hear a lot is, I need sugar to keep me up. That's what a lot of people think. And so they reach for more sugar just to get them back up, And so that's not what we want, right? Now, it's better off for you to run on your stored body fat for fuel than run on that drip of carbohydrate that you're putting in your mouth. Like an IV, it's like a drip walking through. But if you have stored body fat, why would you do that? Becoming a fat burner, I talk about this in my book, is awesome energy. It's different. You don't have the highs and the lows. You're more stable. So becoming a fat burner is really critical in understanding that. So when you wake up in the morning, you're better off to have protein and fat. Because the moment you introduce carbohydrates into your body, you've spiked your insulin levels, you've spiked your glucose, and then what's going to happen? No matter what, always, what's going to happen? You're going to dip, you're going to crash. So if you don't want the crash, don't spike yourself. Don't do it. So let me give you a typical day for me. I gave you my coffee example. Coffee, and then, so I've got like my protein, my fat, and my carbs, and then my water. So I've got two things out of 4. I get 4 portions. I get 5. And I get 5 of these. And I get 11 waters. Water's based on your height and weight. I drink usually an ounce to 3/4 of an ounce to an ounce of water per pound. I've been really bad at that, but in the wintertime you really need that. Having just at least, they say 8 ounces a day, that's bare minimum. 8 ounce glasses a day, that's bare minimum. You should have your body weight or like 3/4 of your body weight in water a day. Okay, so I get 11 of those. I do 11 of those. That's a lot of freaking water. So I really have not been doing that, but I'm trying. And that's the best thing, is just to try and just see where you get at the end of the day. So my fatty coffee and then my protein, and then I'll fast until a certain window of time. And then I can eat the rest of it. Now here's the thing. What is the most important thing that I'm looking for? What is the most important thing that I am looking for? I've already told you this. I'm trying to keep my muscle tissue. I am trying not to lose that. It's hard earned. It's like you going to your job every day and making the money that you make and then throwing it away. Like my muscle tissue is hard earned. And so I'm eating to fuel that. Now, there's a lot of people who think of protein only for people who lift weights, like meatheads and things like that. But that's not it. Your protein is the building blocks of every single cell that is made in your body. So it's not just about keeping muscle. Your cells are dying all day, every day anyways. Your skin cells, your gut cells, your mouth turns over like every 3 days. Your gut, those cells die off about every 3 weeks. Your muscle tissue, your heart tissue, your bones. You're literally not the same person you were a year ago, 10 years ago. Like your heart, your bones are totally different from your environment, from the people you've hung around, from the foods that you have eaten than you were when you were born. You're different. Not even your bone is solid. None of it. Okay? So everything is always dying and being remade. Your protein is the structure, the frame, the architecture of every cell. So it doesn't matter if you're working out or not, or if you're bedridden, your protein is still the number one thing that you need to focus on getting in your body. That's why companies like Isagenix are phenomenal and everybody should be taking them, because everybody needs protein. Everyone. Your fats, like I said earlier, fuel your brain and transport nutrients in and out of cells. That's why you need your fats. Your carbs are your energy. They fuel your movement. They fuel your respiratory system, your heart rate. So you've got to have carbs. You have to. You can't not have any one of these. You have to have all 3 macronutrients. So carbs aren't bad. It's just knowing how to have them and how much to have that matters. Okay? So for me, I am always hyper-focused on number 1, getting my protein in. My protein is my number 1. So pretty much every single meal that you have, you should base it around protein. What's my protein going to be at this meal? Is it going to be Isagenix? For me, I have like 1 or 2 meal replacements a day, because that gives me this and this, 1 of each. 1 meal replacement shake gives me 1 of each. And I get 5 per day. Okay? So for me, I'm usually having 1 protein shake a day and sometimes 2. And if I want to make my cereal, then that counts, you know. But my protein shake will always be had after a workout. So guaranteed, I'm always having one per day, minimum, all right? So then I get other things. And since I try to cook, like every Sunday it's prep day, and I find out what I'm gonna make that week. And I look at my recipes, and I'm like, okay, this past Sunday I made turkey chili, and I had, oh my God, you guys, I left it out overnight on Sunday night. So the whole thing was ruined. That sucked. But that would have been really, really healthy and like something to eat off of for the next couple of days. Like one serving, I would have known how much. And I don't get really into like the nitty gritty tracking of like how many. I don't care that much because I'm working out. Like if I see myself gaining weight and I'm in a certain, then I'll tweak something. But usually when you're lifting weights and you're, building muscle, you don't usually have to worry about it that much. Your body kind of naturally takes it in and metabolizes it and utilizes it. It's just the carbs in excess and fat that gets you in trouble. Now, a couple things I want to talk about. So before a workout, I'll have protein, fat, and carbs. What builds muscle is protein, all of it, carbs and fat. They all build muscle, okay? After your workout, what has happened? So let's talk about this. This is just like basic nutrition information. After a workout, what happens?
Your muscles like deteriorate or no?
Well, it depends on what you're doing. Like if you're talking about like weightlifting, you've broken them down. You've torn the muscle tissue. And so let's like just talk about a figure fit workout. We can talk about, that's weight training. Like you were there, you're lifting weights and you're doing cardio. You're doing split jumps. So you're doing cardio as well. So in weightlifting, you're tearing your muscle tissue. Okay, so it's actually like it repairs. When it repairs, it grows bigger. Okay, when you're doing any sort of exercise, you're burning calories. Okay, there's oxygen, like marathon runners, cardio spin people, spin addicts, running addicts. They love their cardio. And what that's doing is really just using glucose. It's not building any muscle. It's just using the stored glucose in their body or stored body fat. Okay, but it's actually not adding or helping their metabolism in any way. It's just like driving your car. It's going to deteriorate. But if you add nice rims to your car, I can't believe I said that, then you just like added some value to your car, right? Muscles do that for your body. Your muscles boost your metabolism, and the way you train your body's energy system also boosts your metabolism. Cardio never will. So a lot of people who don't know anything about exercise, they're like, I need to go run. I need to go spin. I need to go burn off these calories. And to me, that is the most crazy thing you can do, because you're just killing yourself to burn off calories from food you ate. There's such a better way. It's such an easier way. Go lift heavy weights. That's the better way. Okay? Now, what happens is, though, after your activity, you've utilized all the glucose, not all of it, but usually most of it, from your muscle tissues, and you need to replace it. Because if you don't, your blood sugar's low, you're depleted, your brain needs glucose to function, and you could go into like a hypoglycemic attack. But you just need to replenish your muscle fibers with that homeostasis. Okay, and that's when you want the carbs. Now, when you're after a workout, you don't want carbs plus fat, because fat slows down the breakdown of the carbohydrates. And after you work out, you want that fast, quick absorption back into your body, back to homeostasis. Does that make sense? So after your workouts, protein and carbs only for about an hour. And within 30 minutes of your workout, usually. That's why a lot of people do protein shakes, because they're quick and easy and they're fast. If you have fat, like a little bit of fat's not going to be harmful, like a couple grams or whatever, but you just want to get it back in, Otherwise, let's say you work out this morning and you didn't eat right afterwards, you didn't refuel your carbs, then you would be drained the rest of the day because your body is then looking for it everywhere and it's not finding it. It will find it in stored fat, but stored fat takes longer to convert to ATP than glucose does. And that's what, I didn't even talk about that yet, but that is what basically your gasoline is. It's ATP, okay? Did I just confuse you? So I'll just go back to that. So Steve, he worked out this morning. If he didn't get glucose in right away, his body would then go searching for it elsewhere. And it would find it in stored body fat, but stored body fat takes longer to convert to glucose. Glucose converts to ATP. ATP is adenosine triphosphate, which is your main fuel that you work off of all of the time. So no matter if you have carbs or fat or whatever, it's all converting into ATP.